our systems, which is reading directly from the VMDs in voting stations, is 1,263,352. This doesn't account for the period during the day when we had a system downtime on our VMDs, where people did vote, but they were marked off the manual voters roll, and they were not necessarily scanned with the VMD. As soon as we do get connectivity, because they do update the VMDs with those people's ID numbers when it's quiet is voting in voting stations, we will then be able to account for everyone who would have shown up at our voting stations. We are getting reports of people that supposedly went to our voting stations during the registration weekend to update their registration details, but the system did not update. Unless somebody has got proof that they did go to the voting stations, because you do get an SMS notification confirming if once your registration has been processed. So when we switch on our VMDs and there is the data in that VMD, as soon as it gains connectivity, it processes whatever data is in the gadget. So as and when that happens, a person gets an SMS notification confirming that their registration has been confirmed. On other matters that we spoke about in the morning, there was a matter in Ward 98 at eThekwini Umgababa, where there was an allegation that a presiding officer was seen walking around with party agents. We have since confirmed that did indeed happen, and those were the only party agents that were available in that voting station, because party agents are expected to escort our staff when they conduct home visits. So it is correct, we have confirmed with the presiding officer that other political parties had not posted party agents in that voting station, which is why we only saw the ANC party agents escorting the presiding officer who was administering special votes. I also need to confirm that the reports of PR ballots running out in eThekwini municipalities have been confirmed in Ward 1 and Ward 4 of eThekwini municipality. In terms of provisioning on our side, we provide the numbers equivalent to the number of people registered in that particular voting district. So our provisioning is 100%, but over and above that, where we have odd numbers, so we just round off to a nearest hundreds. That's why we've ended up with a 6% buffer in the province in terms of the number of ballot papers that we printed. The issue in these wards that are affected was about the logistics plan in that part of the Outer West region in Pinetown, where the provisioning was not in line with the quantities that they were supposed to provide. So it has nothing to do with ballots running out. What we have since done is to move ballot papers around, because the PR ballot doesn't have boundaries. It can travel the entire eThekwini municipality. So in areas of low voter turnout, we have redirected those ballots to Ward 1 and Ward 4 whilst they pull their act together in terms of distribution plan from our Pinetown servicing area. At this stage, we can report that all our voting stations remain operational, and the ones that were temporarily shut down in Okahlamba region that we spoke about in the morning because of the PRM matter, they are operational. And we will ensure that in all our voting stations we will close at 9, including those that opened late today in Kempatown and Umzinto. But our framework is that we do not finish until everyone who is in the queue has been attended. So there is no framework for extending the voting time, but we can guarantee everyone that everyone will be at the queue at 9 o'clock will be administered. I think those are the main things that I wanted to touch on at the moment, and I am happy to take questions if there are any.
And I'm Hlongo from the SABC. And Mrs. Masing, I just want to check the voting station in Umzindo. You said in the morning that you were trying to get an alternative venue. Were you able to get that venue and have people coming through to the voting station, because there were reports that people were being threatened in the area?
That's correct, Ayanda. We managed to open that voting station at Ballot. It was the last one to open in the province after lunch today. Because we couldn't get assistance with the filling up of the trenches that were dug overnight in that voting station. So they had to use a longer route to access that voting station. On accessing it, we were then confronted with the threats that if we were to open that voting station, the community was going to burn it down because it's a community hall. So we moved to another facility within the precinct of the voting station. What I didn't do now is that I didn't check in terms of the voter turnout. We are able to check that for you in the system because we can see voter turnouts as and when people arrive at voting station and they get scanned with the VMD. We can confirm that with you after this meeting. What the turnout is in that particular voting station is probably is not going to be amazing, but what we indicated to the community, because we have been engaging with the leaders in that community, is that based on the people that voted via the special vote yesterday, because we were able to administer special vote home visits under the police escorts, people voted, and we told them that whether you actually vote or not today, we will produce a result from the people that voted yesterday. And in South Africa, we don't have a threshold for voting. It doesn't matter whether 1% of the people turn up, we will produce a result out of that 1%. But that's not an ideal situation, because that's not how democracy is supposed to work. But people need to understand that if you disrupt the Electoral Commission while performing its duties, whether 10 people or 10,000 people vote, we will issue a result, and there will be a councillor who will earn a salary in that community.
No, Mrs. Masinga, in the morning you said a Ward 15 at Echozini, when the presiding officers tried to go in there, they found that the road had been closed. I just want to check, because in the morning I was disturbed, I had to rush somewhere. I want to check if maybe you have the reasons why people decided to do that, because ordinarily one would have expected that they would be voting in numbers for the politics of the area, which I happen to know of. But then I don't understand maybe the reasons why they closed the door.
They cite service delivery, but you don't really know what the real issue is. What we've picked up in this province is that service delivery is actually used for anything. Everyone tends to attribute any action, especially as we get closer to elections, to issues of service delivery, but sometimes you don't quite get what is it exactly that hasn't happened that was supposed to happen. So in terms of Ward 15 in Jozini, they blocked the road, and they said the issue there is that there's just no service that is delivered by the community. We can take this outside of this as well to discuss it further, but basically that's what they said. And they left those notices and those big rocks overnight, blockading our access to the voting station.
All right, Innocent from LN24SA. Ms. Masinga, you said the system was down and on the VMDs, and they had to scan manually. What was the cause, and was it throughout the province, and how long did it take?
It was throughout the country, and it didn't last more than 15 minutes. But what needed to happen after that is that people needed to restart the gadgets. So not everyone was as fast enough in terms of restarting their gadgets at voting stations. But like I indicate, that process didn't result in the voting process stopping at the voting station. We have a manual certified voters roll that we keep at a voting station, and we can still mark people off the certified voters roll, and we can later punch in their numbers on the VMD, their ID numbers on the VMD, so that they also are recorded in the system as having voted. Because one of the biggest functions of the VMD is to indicate whether somebody has voted or not. We do not expect a widespread incidence in the province or in the country because it's local government elections and you can only vote where you are registered. But just as an additional security measure over and above marking you off the voter's roll and marking your thumb with the ink, we also scan you on the VMD so that even if you can try and show up anywhere else, the VMD will say this person has been scanned and then this person has voted in this particular VD. So in that short span when we lost connectivity, that is the only thing that we lost out on, because during that period we were not able to verify using the VMD that people have voted. But because no one expected that to happen, we do not expect that anyone would have planned to do anything untoward in that 15 minutes short span.
Doesn't look like we have any more questions.
Thank you.